Thank you, Jack. So thank you very much for the kind words. Good afternoon. Vanakkam, Aibowan, Assalamu alaikum. So today I would like to take you through the National Mediation Program of Sri Lanka. And so mediation, do you know anything about mediation? So Indigo was speaking to you about conflict and other things. So why mediation? Any idea? Why I'm putting you in trouble? I'll start with a story. I don't know whether you know this story. Have you heard about the story about 17 goats? Yeah, okay, we'll start that. And maybe you know the answer, but I'll try to just to give you why we need mediation. So there was a father in long time ago. So he had 17 goats as his property. 17 goats. So he had 3 children, 3 sons. So we say maybe X, Y, Z. So normally you have a property and then you may create a last will for your children. So those days, I said it's a long time back, so there is no this kind of thing. So before he died, he called his sons and told that he has 17 goats and they have to divide those goats among them according to his wish. So he said X will get half of it and Y will get 1/3 of it, and then the Z will get 1/9 of it. So this is a story. So he died. So the poor children could not resolve these disputes because they didn't know how to resolve that. Because then he also put a condition and said, you can't cut or chop the goats and they have to take it as he said. So those days the mathematics was not very popular, so otherwise you can find the answer. So they had a big problem after his demise. How do we resolve? How do we do that? Any suggestions? So because you can't, because half of 17 is 8.5, so you can't divide it. So how do you do that? Any ideas? And you might think there is an orange story, you are asking questions and answers, now you are coming and asking another. Okay, so they had a big problem, so they could not resolve it because you can't do it. So what they did was, they went before an elderly person in the village and told him that we had an issue, can you help us? Because they told the story and the issue. Then he said, okay, no problem, I will support because your father is my friend, so I can help you. So come tomorrow with 17 goats to my place. Then I will resolve that dispute. Then the next day morning, they brought the goats and came to that person. Then he said, okay, no problem. Okay, I will give you one goat. And he said, one. Then he said, okay, now you can divide the goats as you wish. So now what will happen? So half of 17, 9. So 1/3 of, 18, 9. 1/3 of 6, 2, total 17. So he took his goat and he went. So this is mediation. Because when people are in dispute or conflict, it is very difficult to resolve a dispute. So they believe that someone has some ability and some skill and expertise to resolve the dispute. So that's how the people believe in the third party intervention. So mediation is an voluntary dispute resolution process where one or more party, they submit their dispute to a mediator or mediators and try to resolve their differences or disputes or issues with the support of him or her. So the mediation is very important, because why I think the British Council also supporting the mediation is because it is a very noble way of resolving dispute. Now you can see the world trend is more towards mediation, including commercial and other disputes as well. So mediation program in Sri Lanka. So you have any questions in mediation? What is mediation is all about? Because in mediation what we are trying to do is, because you submit your dispute to a third party and try to resolve the dispute the way you want. The mediators do not have any authority to decide on the other party. Mediator support the parties to resolve their dispute. So the decision is the party's decision, not like judge giving an order or a judgment after hearing a case is not mediation. So therefore it is very important, it is an empowerment process where you try to support the people and empower them and try to resolve a dispute. So I was briefed by Jack about your assignment with regard to support the mediation program. So I thought it is important to brief you all about mediation, and then that will enable you to do your work. So if you take the mediation history of Sri Lanka, that is a typo. Do you heard about Gam Sabha in the country? No. Those days we had Gam Sabha system in Sri Lanka, and where people will go to the elderly people and resolve their disputes, but it was in 1833 it was repealed, and therefore the people didn't have any means, alternative means to resolve a dispute. So each and everyone has to go to courts to resolve a dispute. We know about the court system in Sri Lanka. So it is costly, it's long process, and also it's very difficult to approach to the courts by all the people. So still we have vulnerable segment of people in the country. So therefore it is very important that whether they have another alternative to resolve their dispute. So therefore in 1958 conciliation boards were established. The conciliation boards was repealed in 1978 because they had lot of powers with regard to resolution of disputes. So you know, power corrupts, absolute power corrupts absolutely. So we have been experiencing in this country for last many years. So therefore there was some problem because they have a political victimization and some other issues, and they misused their powers and so on. So therefore in 1978 it was repealed. So then there is another vacuum raised. So then people, to resolve their dispute, then they have to go back to the court system. You can see at that time whether we have access to justice. Even now there aren't many courts for the people to go. Even now, when you want to resolve your fundamental right issue, then you have to come to Colombo. The Supreme Court is in Colombo. So then we can see that what is the situation of them. So therefore, so today what we are trying to discuss is the community mediation program. So then our policymakers thought it is very important to provide some sort of an alternative method or mechanism to resolve the minor disputes and minor offenses, because there are so many cases in the courts which is taking so long and people are not in a position to resolve their disputes. So therefore in 1988 there was a law brought in, Mediation Boards Act, and it has been amended for 4 times. So I don't want to discuss on that because the important is the content. So that is the community mediation program we have around the country. I will discuss in detail later. And there was another initiative taken in 2000 to create a commercial mediation program in 2000. But it is not effective now. So now they are going to bring a new law. That's a different thing. So it is in a dormant stage. Then in 2003, there was another law brought in to establish special mediation boards. We will be discussing that later. Sri Lanka, we don't have any problem for laws, rules and regulations. We have enough, but we are still, our parliament only makes laws. Okay. So then in 2004, another program that is also ADR is supporting for that. That is the school mediation program in 2004. That is to give some sort of an awareness and skill to the selected school on how to resolve their disputes amicably on their own. Okay. So there are two institutions are important when we discuss about the National Mediation Program. One is the Ministry of Justice. The other one is Mediation Boards Commission. Ministry of Justice, what they do? Normally what the ministry does? What is the role of a ministry? Any idea? You are very silent, I don't know why. So normally the policy making are done by the ministries. That's the role of the ministries and the cabinet. So Minister of Justice make policies and also provide administrative support for the implementation of the mediation program, because it is 100% government run program. So ADR is supporting for their capacity building, strengthening the program, but technically, because the national budget provide support to the mediation program. And then commission, because I told you, because there was a conciliation board and it was repealed because of political reasons. Therefore, in this act, they were very particular to make an independent commission to deal with the mediation program. So there are 5 commissioners, including a chairperson, and they are appointed for 3 years by the president. And the Mediation Boards Commission is the sole responsibility of implementing the mediation program. Appointment of mediators, transfers, if there are anything, maybe disciplinary actions and everything is done by the Mediation Boards Commission, not by the Ministry of Justice. Because when the Ministry of Justice comes, then it will be a political problem, because a minister is a political person. So we discuss about the Community Mediation Board. So any idea about the Community Mediation Board? Have you heard about that? Have you gone before that?
Volunteer based.
Yeah. How many mediation boards we have? A simple question. How many community mediation boards we have in Sri Lanka? Any idea? Okay. How many divisional secretariats we have in Sri Lanka? Do you know what is divisional secretariat? Am I right? Pradesh Lekam Karyalaya, Pradesh Selaham. You know how many? How many DS divisions we have in Sri Lanka? We know we have 9 provinces and 25 districts. The next level is the divisional secretariat divisions. So we have 342 DS divisions in the country. So here the mediation board area means each divisional secretariat area is the mediation board's area. So minister has gazetted almost all the 342 divisional secretariat as this mediation board's area. So the jurisdiction, what do you mean by that, is the jurisdiction. So you have Gramaneladhari division, you might be living in a particular Gramaneladhari division. So the Gramaneladhari division comprises of number of families like. So you have a geographical area. So likewise the divisional secretariat area is the mediation board area, we say. So how do you appoint mediators or select mediators? I don't know, Jack, do they want these kind of information or it's fine? Yeah. No, because it should be support to you. So once the minister gazetted the mediation board's area, it is already done, so we don't do it anymore. And now, but we have only 331 mediation boards now, because only in 2022 we gazetted 10 more divisional secretariat, so therefore it is not yet created. Okay, once the gazette is done, the mediation board commission calls for nominations. Can you apply to be a mediator? You don't want to be, no? Can you apply? So if you want to become an SLAS officer, I know you are private sector people, but if you want to be a teacher, then why you have to apply. Then you have to show interest that I want to get this job. For mediation, you can't apply. You have to be nominated. Is it clear? Because the first quality or a qualification to be a mediator is you have to be a good citizen or a good person. So you can't declare yourself, I am a very good human being, I am a very good girl or a boy. So somebody has to say, oh, so and so is very good. So he or she is well respected in the community. So therefore, there will be a nomination process. So then somebody has to nominate the other person to be he or she is a good person in this community. So therefore, we can consider him or her to be a mediator. So that is a nomination process. So it will be gazetted for every 3 years. Sorry, any question?
I have a question. Like, who will be the post of the nominator?
Sorry, nominator. Who nominate? Yeah, good question. So technically, what we do is, so once it is gazetted, a department heads or a school principal or a Gramaneladhari, or more than that, a civil society organization and religious organization or women organizations, they can nominate this person is eligible to be a mediator. So then they have to send an application to the mediation board's commission, there is a specified form that they have to inform, they have to provide all the information of the person, and they might say, so I will recommend him or her to be a mediator. So once it is done, so in order to nominate, then they should know what is the eligibility of a mediator. For community mediation board we are talking. So he or she may be a resident or engaged in work in that divisional secretariat area, that is the mediation board area, or maybe outside if there is in very exceptional circumstances, or a public officer can be nominated by the district secretary or a divisional secretary. So they can nominate. So in order to nominate, this qualification has to be fulfilled by the person. So you can nominate, but there is no educational qualification for that. But normally when we conduct interviews, we look into the qualifications as well, because in 1988, because you said it is a voluntary process, you are providing your service free of charge, so you can't demand the people. So that's the idea of it. So what are the disputes? So this is very important for your work, I believe. So when you create your art, so you have to consider these, because so once the mediation board is established, and what kind of disputes you can send to the mediation boards for resolution. Sorry.
Just before moving on, I had a question about, because it's a voluntary position,
Yeah.
and you are nominated by somebody else, what helps motivate someone to take up the office of the mediator and to see to the services that are required by, like, what is their motivation, or what is the incentive for a mediator to continue to be a mediator and to continue to do the work, because it's voluntary?
Yeah, it's a very good question, because unlike West, because especially in the Asian region, because we still want to give our knowledge and skill to the community. So because in Sri Lanka, you are educated free of charge with the public money, and we also believe that apart from earning income, that we would like to give our services to the people. So therefore, the incentive means, because you are not provided a salary, what you are given is 1,000 rupees per day for your travel allowance for the sittings. Only that. But, so what we believe in that is, because I have some ability to support the community. Any time, then I will be, because this is not a full-time job. It is 4 days per month. And more than that, so they also think it is a privilege in the society. Becoming a mediator means then you will be well respected in the community, because you will be given a Ministry of Justice identity card, And you will also, and as an incentive, what we do is, so we will be, the Ministry of Justice provide the Justices of Peace, JP post, to the mediators for the period they are serving as mediators. They are appointed for 3 years, but they can be reappointed. Is that answer your question or? Okay.
Excuse me, I have a question about
Please.
the composition of the mediation groups. Because I would like to know a little bit more about the composition of the mediation boards, because each DS division is not equal.
Mhm.
So is there like, do they consider the number of population or any other aspects into that? And the people who are nominating the government, other than the government institutions, when it comes to organizations and all, are the youth clubs and all
Yes.
entitled?
Yes.
Or like, who are entitled and who are not entitled to nominate?
Okay. That's a good question. So that's the thing, because I think you have to ask me questions, so then I will be, so that will be more useful for you. So technically the composition is, now the Mediation Boards Commission took a policy decision, maximum 40 per mediation boards
For 3 years.
for 3 years. And maybe minimum, because according to the law, at least you should have 12 mediators. Unless you don't have 12 mediators, you can't establish a mediation board. So therefore, taking into consideration of the population, as you pointed out, and also taking into consideration of the disputes, because we have an history, because how many disputes are coming and then so on. So then they will take a decision on that. Because there is no strict guideline on that because of the funding issue. So they wanted to, otherwise sometimes, for example, if it is a big DS divisions, so they may go up to 50, 60 also earlier. So now it is 40 and minimum 20. So depending on the nature. To other question, because yes, youth club also.
The policy decision, do they have to go to the parliament?
No.
By an act? No.
No. So these are administrative things. So therefore the commission take decisions during their meeting and then it is minuted. So therefore then they will inform the respective people. So we will be doing that. So how, sorry.
Further to that, sorry. The composition, that we know the numbers, but within the numbers, is there like, how do you balance the gender, the ethnicities, and like, other interests within the community?
Yes, of course. Yes. Because technically, because when we started the mediation program, the gender was very bad, only 2%. But after the awareness creation by several years, and now it is 25 to 30, because it is there still, because we are trying our level best. So that is the problem, because people do not know. So technically what happened is, these youth organizations or civil society organizations, women organizations, they have an opportunity to nominate, but they don't do that. So end of the day, what will happen is, the Secretary Mediation Boards Commission will write to the divisional secretary and say, we are going to establish a mediation board, can you nominate? Then the divisional secretary will call upon all the Grama Niladharis and say, can you nominate 3 or 4 people per Grama Niladharis? And those lists will be sent by the divisional secretary to the Mediation Boards Commission. So therefore, the diversity and other things, it's not really working out. But technically, if there is a Tamil Sinhalese mixed population, so then there will be definitely Tamil speaking and Sinhala speaking mediators will be appointed. That is there. But gender also, so now it's increasing. Hopefully it will be increased soon. And so that is the thing, because the youth club and everyone, they can. But normally, even now, we don't have that because the awareness is not there.
What is the minimum age that they can nominate a person? 18 or 21?
So technically 18 or 21, but normally for the mediation boards, because you have to highly respected in the community and so on, so therefore they look into people like 30, 35.
But policy-wise, what is the minimum age limit?
That is majority. After 18 they can. So that is the Sri Lankan law. Yeah, you have a question?
How long the mediation boards are active in Sri Lanka? How long?
How long mean? From when?
Yeah.
From 1990.
1990?
Yes.
Not before?
Sorry?
Not before?
The community mediation.
The community mediation program the law came into place in 1988. The first mediation board was established in 1990, which is Morto. Morto is the number one mediation board.
So after 3 years,
Yeah.
they be nominated for 3 years. At the end of the 3 years, who decides whether they will be reappointed or
So you have to use your mic, yeah.
at the end of the 3 years, who decides or how do they decide whether that person or in your seat is going to be reappointed or they're going to call new people? Is that the board that decides that?
Yeah.
At this point?
Yeah, good question. So normally, because each 3 years will be new boards, there is no automatic extension. So therefore, they have to be nominated again. So the existing mediators may be nominated by the chairperson of the board. Then you others can be nominated, then they will be given another training, because normally what you do is, because I didn't tell you that because it is not really helping you, because normally once the mediators are selected, nominated, the mediation boards commission conduct an interview, and after conducting interviews they select the trainees. The trainees are trained for 5 days on mediation knowledge and skill, and the recommendations are made because we have officers called mediation training officers in the districts, and they provide the recommendation to the mediation boards commission. The mediation boards commission only have the authority to select mediators. So based on the training assessment, because there is a written exam also, based on the marks of the continuous assessment and the written exam. So then based on the other qualification, then they sit and say, okay, we will select this much of people. How one of them will be appointed as the chairperson of the mediation board. So it is not automatic. So every year there will be a nomination process, a training and selection also.
Education qualifications are also
Yeah, normally when they do the interview, so then they will look into the education as well. Yeah.
But education is not a minimum requirement.
Yeah.
There's no.
So there is no, in paper there is no qualification. So therefore, for example, what we want to do is, because sometimes there may be people who has lot of capacity with regard to dispute resolution, elderly, and they are well experienced people, they may not have the paper qualification. So that is the main reason we do not want to lose that. So therefore we don't see that, but in the interview process now, earlier not, because now when you go to, because there are so many people with degrees and everything. Any other questions, or did I answer all the questions? Sorry.
Just one more question, just in terms of risk. So I'm thinking this is a volunteer position. There is someone who is tasked with doing 4 sessions a month.
Yeah.
Yes, 4 sessions a month. And outside of them wanting to give back to the society,
Yeah.
it's a highly respected position. They are also given this Justice of Peace designation. So I have 2 questions there. One is, when they are given this Justice of Peace designation, it's a very respectable thing. How do the mediators maintain? I know they don't get involved; they are supporting, but even in supporting, when your Justice of Peace is supporting the discussion, it can sometimes not be always partial. The mediation, how do they maintain their partiality or impartiality? The second one is, what happens when there is external pressure. For example, there's an economic crisis, and this person has to, deal with their own family and own home, or how what keeps them continue to do these 4 sessions when there are bigger priorities for them, because it's a service, it's a volunteer-based.
Yeah. So Justice of Peace is what you are. Why you think that the impartiality will come because appointing as a Justice of Peace?
Because there's a power, they hold a lot of respect. So when they are the mediator,
Yeah, okay. Because the Justice of Peace, this was given just to an incentive. Because normally if you want to become a Justice of Peace, it is a political process, Because if you really want, if you are not a mediator, if you want to be a Justice of Peace, then you have to go behind a MP and get an application from the Minister of Justice. So then you will be checked for your criminal records. So it's a big process. It's a political thing. For this, they are becoming Justice of Peace by descent. So that's because of the position. So, and also that's the main reason they will not extend it. So you can enjoy the Justice of Peace thing until you are becoming a mediator also. And the reason is because sometimes you may need to create some documents, affidavits and other things, so then they can support that. That's one reason. And for your other questions, the priorities come. So that is the main reason because we have more mediators. Because if you have an issue, so then, for example, for the moment what we are trying to say is, if a mediator is not going to participate for 3 consecutive days, then he or she will be given a notice that you are no more a mediator. Because otherwise you can't run the system. So then you have a list of mediators who are not appointed yet all. So then they will fill that gap. So therefore they can, otherwise if you have an issue, then they can write to the mediation board and ask for 3 months leave also. So I have a problem, I'm not well, so therefore I need to take 3 months off. Okay, so then they will, they will approve it, the commission, so then they can come back. If you're going to foreign or abroad or something, you will do that.
Yeah.
That's right.
The dates for the sittings, who decides that?
And technically because everyone are working, so therefore normally Saturdays or Sundays. So that is easier because normally, because this is a less cost effective process, because the mediation board now, according to the statistics, they are getting 250 to 300,000 disputes per year. And you don't have a courthouse or buildings to resolve because it is cost effective. So therefore they sit in the schools. They have their meetings or discussions or mediation in the schools. So Saturday, that's the main reason Saturday or Sunday normally. So now I think according to the because of the financial crisis within the government, so now they have reduced into 2 days from this year. Sorry.
Tiru, can I suggest maybe the slide on the mediation procedure and the one on the mediation process. If you could talk about that a little bit, because that links to a question about how the boards are compiled and
Yeah.
how they are set up. Yeah. And then, if you could just talk to those two slides a little bit. And we can maybe continue after lunch as well, yeah? So you don't have to rush.
So this, so which slides you? Now.
Yeah, if you can, yeah. I mean, you can talk a little bit quickly about the mandates and the types, yeah? But then focus on those things, yeah?
Okay. So we'll go quickly. So this of course I think you will be given the slides. So no worries about that. So what are the disputes can go before a mediation board? So movable property or immovable property issues and contracts. If the debt, damage or a demand of a dispute is less than 1 million, those must go before the mediation board. You can't file an action in the court of law directly. If you want to go to courts, you have to come to the mediation board and get an order, then only you can go to the mediation board. So these are the disputes, they can go. And there are some offenses, hurt, grievous hurt and other things also. So that also can go before a mediation board. At the same time, even the courts, when a judge hearing a case, if he or she feels it is better to resolve this case in a mediation process rather than a court, then he or she can refer that to the mediation board. So that's happening a lot now. So there are exemptions. Some disputes cannot be, you can see here. So these are the examples of, not the entire list, the examples what kind of disputes we can take it to mediation board. For example, movable properties, vehicles, animals or furniture, immovable properties, land and housing, dispute related agreements. There are so many cases, credit cards, even hire purchase, leasing issues, bank loans, everything is going to mediation board if the debt or a damage or a claim is less than 1 million. That is the recent 2024 amendment. So it will increase the number of disputes to the mediation board by double. So maybe 500,000 per year. And offenses, because there are under the penal code, you have offenses. You heard about penal code? Criminal offenses. So minor criminal offenses should be tried before mediation board, before they go to magistrate court. Because sometimes it's unnecessary, because otherwise it's a penal sanction, no? So therefore they will try to resolve these in the mediation board, then it is not really affecting the people. For example, voluntary causing hurt, grievous hurt, there are a list of things, so you can ask if you want any questions. But more importantly, there is another offense also included, that if a child, if there is a theft issue, if some child has stolen something, if the worth of the stolen good is 100,000 now, earlier it was 5,000, in 2024 it is 100,000, then the those issues cannot be tried in the court of law because it will harm the children. Because the reason why is normally the mobile phones and the other things are, which that's the main reason they are increase up to 100,000. So they can't, the police can't file an action in the magistrate court. It should come to the mediation board. And there are other issues that I think which cannot be come before the mediation board, which are the minor matrimonial disputes, divorce, those kind of things, because only the district court has the authority to provide divorce, and fundamental right petitions, and so on and so forth. I think you have the list, you can see that. So the mediation procedures are more important. So how they mediate disputes? So when the mediation board is established, people can send their disputes, which we discussed earlier, to the mediation board. Once they receive that mediation, then they have to record it, and the chairperson will constitute a board. So we have 40 mediators in the panel, we call it mediation panel. So normally in Sri Lanka, we have 3 mediators per dispute. For the one person, the complainant, so normally we call first party and the second party. We don't call plaintiff and the defendant, because then you can't mediate. It should be very neutral. So therefore, once they receive, then they will have a 3-member panel to discuss a dispute. So one party chooses one mediator, another party chooses another mediator, and both mediators will choose a chief mediator. So that is the mediator panel. So then they will discuss, the dispute will be discussed.
So it is open, the panel is open for the people who are going to make a complaint?
Yeah, the panel is because you have to send your application in writing. So there is you can write a letter to the mediator. I have a chairperson. Normally you complain to the chairperson. The chairperson's address is given to the people, and then they will write a letter, and I have a dispute like this. So here is the second party or another person who is involved in the dispute, and his or her address. Then I will write to them. So based on that, then they will invite both parties. If it is coming into the purview of the mediation board, then come for a mediation process. So in the mediation process is the very important thing. So then they will invite the parties, as I mentioned, for a discussion. At that time only they chooses the mediator. Otherwise, the chairperson can also create pre-constituted mediation boards based on the dispute. Both are possible.
Both are possible.
Yeah.
But then, because it is within the DS division, and the for the panel are selected from that particular division. There are relatives, friends, that favorations are there. How do you overcome that?
Yeah. So that's a good question. Technically what we do is, because we will ask the person to disclose that. Okay. Once it is selected, because normally they know, then the other party will say that no, because he is a relative of that, so therefore he will be favor him or her. So therefore based on that, then we will provide another mediator. So if there is any issues come. So the chairperson will be very careful on that. And at the same time, that is the mediation is very important, because I think anytime you can change, anytime you can come out. It doesn't mean that you have to, because if you are not willing to part of, because if you feel that it is unfair, then it is not resolved properly, then you can also come out and you can complain. so that mediator is favorizing him, he is biased towards him, he is not neutral, so then you can ask for another mediator also. So then that issue will be given to another person. So in that process, the mediation process, they conduct a mediation session. That is very important because I think technically that session will try to understand the disputes in a proper way. So technically, if I'll go to this. So Indika discussed about that orange story. So if I take that as an example, so technically in the mediation process, they have to discuss with the party, they will be given an opportunity to tell their story, and the other party will be given another option to time to give his view on the issue. Then they will conduct a process. Then they have to identify what are the interests of the people. So technically when they come to the mediation program, process, they will be in the position. So what is my position? So normally in a dispute, we feel I am right and the other person is wrong. So that's the normal. So he did mistake or she did mistake to me. So, and for example, if it is a land dispute or something, so then the position will be there. The important thing, so during the process, because normally we conduct 5 days training, so this is just to give you an awareness. So during the session, they will try to understand their interest. What is really went wrong? What is the problem? Why he or she is saying like this? For example, we discuss about the orange. What are their interests? What are their needs? That is what they do, try to resolve or try to explain or try to bring that issue during the process. Then they will try to the shared interest to the both parties. If I come to the orange story, so we also discuss about the trilingual, so triangle of satisfaction. How do you do that? In a dispute, there are 3 interests need to be tackled or discussed properly. One is the procedural interest of the people. One, psychological interest of the people, and the substantive we call substantive. For example, if I don't want to take a new example, we'll take the orange story because you know that. So we understand what is the substantive interest in the orange story. Substantive interest? Oh, one child wants the peel and the other one wants the orange. So that is substantive interest. But a psychological interest, what is it? So in mediation process, what we are trying to do is, we are trying to reconcile the relationship also. That is because you are not like a court. So when you go to courts, one person win and one other person lose, then you become opponents. But in mediation, we trying to reconcile the relationship which was broken due to the dispute. Try to understand the issue, why. So then there is an opportunity to discuss and understand the other person. So you may know what is the interest of the other person, why he or she did like that. So we are trying to, during the mediation process, they will do all those things to understand that. So the psychological interest in the orange story, there are identical twins. They are sisters. The relationship is important. So if the mother gave the orange to one child and the other child didn't get it, so then there is a psychological interest is not met. What is the procedural interest? How do we resolve the dispute? That is the procedural interest, that is very important. Because you can come to decision, you know what is your need, but if you are not in a position to follow the proper procedures to resolve the disputes, then there is a problem. For example, the orange story. Okay? How do you resolve? Because you know one person want the peel and the other person want the orange. But what should be the mother, what she should do? Whether mother peel the orange and give, or you ask the children to take it the way they want. How do you do that?
You ask the question.
Yeah, for example, you know one child want the peel, the other person want the orange. So you know the dispute and you know the solution also. How you are going to do that? That is the procedural aspect, procedural interest. How do you do that? How should give the orange first? That is the procedural interest. Who should be given? The person who want the peel or the person who want the orange? Either way you can. Important thing is, because it should be done properly, otherwise both children will not be going to benefit of that dispute. Because the person who wants the peel is no more interested in the orange. That is not her interest. The person who wants the orange will not be interested in the peel. Am I right? So they will be only interested on what they really want. So what I'm trying to say is the procedural interest, if they want to meet it properly, then you have to give the orange to one child with condition. If you are giving it to the person who wants the peel, then you have to tell her you have to carefully remove the peel and without damaging the orange, you have to give the orange to the other sister. So that's the procedural interest. So any problem can be, we can understand what is the interest and what is the substantive interest and so on and so forth. But if you really want to resolve the disputes in a proper way which is beneficial to the parties, then you have to follow the procedural interest of the issue. I don't know whether you understand that?
Yeah.
So therefore, in the mediation process, when they discuss that, they will try to bring all the issues, and also they have to create different options, because there may be, because you need more options, then only you can choose the best one. The mediator, they do not tell them, so these are the options, you have to go and select it. They will not do that. The way the process is conducted, the people will be empowered to create options. Then they will be in a position to select the best option out of the dispute, which is a win-win solution. But it doesn't mean that you can always have a win-win solution, but which is beneficial to at least a psychological win for another party, because he or she know what is happening and they may come to terms, okay, we'll do this. So therefore the mediation process is very important, because it tries to resolve the dispute, but at the same time they try to amicably resolve the dispute, and they want to reconcile the relationship also. Because Indika have discussed, and he will be discussing, because the conflict arises between known people. Because until I start the session, I don't think you and I have any dispute. Maybe now, because I'm talking a lot. But because I don't know you and you don't know me. But only the dispute or a conflict occurs with close people or on a normal program. But the other macro level disputes are different. So therefore, so the mediation process, what we trying to do here is, I think, which is very important for you. The mediation process is very important. That's what we call it, process. If the process is not done properly, you can't resolve the dispute properly. Sorry. I think you must be angry. So.
No, I just wanted to emphasize something. So keep in mind that these 8,500 mediators that are identified, they have received 5 days of training focusing on this one slide. So predominantly, they are trained to apply this model of interest-based mediation. The idea being that they help the parties to generate solutions and for the parties to agree which one to go for. So the mediator, unlike a judge or a magistrate, does not decide who is wrong or who is right. They facilitate the process, as Theo explained, to help the parties to come to a solution that they are both happy with. Right. And Theo, maybe you can quickly say something. What then is the formal process if the two parties are happy with the agreement? What happens? And if they don't agree, what is the formal process?
Yeah. Yes. So they conduct the process. Thank you, Jack. They conduct the process, and at the end of the process, either the dispute can be settled or non-settled. If it is settled, then they will enter into an agreement. Then we have a standard format, because it is not very legally binding program, so it is a very normal form. And then they will issue a settlement certificate to both parties. In the form they fill it, and the parties will sign. So we are agreeing to these things. And the mediators will sign as witness, because that is not their decision. That is the party's decision. They will sign as a witness. So once that is done, so then they will be giving the copy, so then that is over. Sometimes you can't resolve all the disputes, then a non-settlement certificate will be issued. The non-settlement certificate will be issued to the complainant, technically, because the person who put the complaint only have an issue, not the other party. So, so then the non-settlement certificate, they will say, so due to these reasons, or maybe the disagreements and so on, this dispute is non-settled. Then the chief mediator signs it, or the chairperson signs it and give it to the parties. Then if they want, then they go to the courts, or they can go to other means to resolve the dispute. So that's the process. So you want to stop now? Or?
No, I do also just, I think, quickly to mention. So you would recall that you mentioned a list of types of civil and criminal disputes. Unless you have a certificate that says we couldn't settle this through mediation, those issues can't be heard by a court. So only once you have a certificate that said mediation failed, then you can go to the court and the court will hear your case and you go into the formal criminal justice system. And think about the meaning of alternative dispute resolution. It is an alternative to the formal justice system. So the idea being that we use mediation as an ADR method to solve disputes, to keep them out of the formal criminal justice system. Sorry, just one.
Oh, sorry. Thanks for adding that.
Non-settlement certificate, what do you call that in Sinhala, the formal term?
Sinhala we call it, I forgot it. I'll give you. So settlement certificate.
One more question. How
Yeah.
many days, like is there a kind of a formal idea how many sittings that for each case the mediation board should?
Oh, technically, so normally for if it is an offense, it has to be resolved within 1 month. If it is a dispute, that means a civil dispute, then it should be resolved within 2 months. But it is not mandatory, so therefore some disputes take more time. Sometimes in 1 day, some problem are resolved.
But maximum
Yeah.
it's
2 months and 1 month.
there's no particular policy on that, no?
Yeah,
It's just the mediation board review it and take the decision.
yeah. So that is technically that.
Tio, can you just go to the next slide quickly? We shall summarize that. The next one after that? Yeah. So this one distinguishes between civil disputes where there's 60 days and criminal offenses where it's 30 days.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the answer is there because you asked me a question. So what is the single word for the non-settlement certificate? Aravul nokarime sathike. Yeah. So we discuss about the community mediation program, and now as I earlier mentioned, there is another program introduced in 2004, that is a special mediation program. So the special mediation program or special mediation boards are established under the Mediation Special Categories of Disputes Act as a different act. Okay, earlier the Community Mediation Board has a separate law and the Special Mediation Board has a separate law. So you should understand that. And the program, even though the law came into place in 2003, we first used the special mediation program in 2005 to create the tsunami special mediation board to deal with tsunami mediation issues, tsunami issues. And land, so we have 16 mediation boards now and 9 are being established. I will discuss. And we have another migrant workers mediation program also, special mediation program, but it is not really happening. And the financial issues, there are going to be special mediation board for finance. Okay. So with regard to the special mediation board, it is come into place based on a gazette notification issued by the minister. So the law provides the overall framework, but the administrative arrangements or policy decisions based on the gazette notification issued by the minister in charge of justice time to time. Okay. So the land mediation board. So land mediation board, now we have earlier we started land mediation board to resolve land disputes, land and property issues in the north and the east after the end of war in 2009. So only those were confined to the north and the east, 8 districts and Anuradhapura as well. So now the government took a policy decision to establish land mediation board in the entire country. So according to the gazette notification issued in 2022, all districts are the jurisdiction of the mediation board, that means administrative district. So earlier we discussed the community mediation boards are established in the DS division level. The land mediation boards are now established 1 per district. So there should be 25 mediation boards, but so far only 16 mediation boards are functioning now and 9 are being established. So we call for applications and they got the applications, now nominations, and now they have to do the other things. So what kind of categories? The minister has to gazette the categories of disputes per special mediation board. It can be either economic issues or social issues. So land being social and economic issues, the land mediation boards were established. We know in courts there are so many cases, especially land matters, take very long. So we try to resolve the land mediation based on the interest-based negotiation. We discuss about what are interests, what are positions, and so on and so forth. So how you can resolve at least some form of land disputes in a way acceptable to both parties in an amicable manner. Because at the end of the day, when you go to courts also, so it is come to a settlement which will be a settlement. So the land, so now according to the new gazette, as I mentioned earlier, in the 2022, 2261, 68, that all disputes, all state land disputes must go for mediation if the monetary value of the dispute is less than 1 million. So now the ministry is considering, because everything is now 1 million, because the community mediation board also now 1 million. So then people will ask, then why should I go before the special mediation board which is in a district which is not close to my vicinity, then the land issues also can go, immovable property issues can go to the community mediation board. No? Then why should I go to the special mediation board unless it is exempted from the issue? So therefore, I think now the ministry is planning to increase up to 2 million. I don't know whether it's going to come. Because earlier it was 2 million, then we reduced to 1 million. So all disputes relating to state lands. You know what is state land? What do you mean by state land? State, that means
State has given land on special leases that you can't sell, all that.
yeah, some permits and other things
What the different deeds they have.
in the government.
Yeah.
You are right. Because state land, Rajaidam, Arasakani, state lands, so in Sri Lanka, if you take the entire landscape, 82% is with the state. Only 18% are privately held. But it includes forest and other things as well. But still it's very high if you compare to other countries. So under that, the government bring special laws to provide land to landless people who are not in a position to pay money and buy a land. There are so many projects and programs. Then you may heard now president is going everywhere and giving deeds to the state land ownership. So under that there are permits. Permits mean that people will be given land to occupy and enjoy and develop. Under that only, so paddy land and other things are given to the people under the land development ordinance. Then the permit will be converted to another level, that is we call grants. Now they are trying to convert it as an outright deed. That's the new program introduced in the last budget. So grant also you have conditions like permits. You can't sell the land to other people, you can't transfer, you can't lease or everything. Even grant also even though you are holding the ownership, the state will have the right to take decisions on that. So you will not have 100% ownership. So for private land, if you are having your ancestral property or you are buying a property, private property, then you will have 100% ownership. That means I can do whatever I want with the land. I can sell, I can gift, I can give it for free, I can lease, I can mortgage, I can do everything. But if it is a state land, some sort of hold or conditions are put into that because it is state land. So with regard to those issues, if you have a problem, maybe encroachment, or some people have been possessing the other person's land, and then the divisional secretary or a land officer is not providing proper consideration for the land issues and so on and so forth, then you can go to the land mediation board. So the all disputes relating to state lands can go before the land mediation board according to the new gazette notification. And then all dispute relating to private lands subject to the monetary value of 1 million should go before the mediation board. There are exceptions, I will tell you later. So this 1 million, what we should understand is, you may have a question whether if it is more than 1 million, whether the party still can go to mediation board. Yes, because the 1 million threshold is given to the courts, because the courts can't entertain any dispute. The court, that means the justice district court, can't hear the cases if the dispute is less than 1 million. So therefore the conditionality, we call it ouster clause. That means we took away the power of the district court and given to mediation boards. So therefore, if the parties are willing, then even though it is more than 1 million, they can go before the mediation board for settlement. There is no issue on that. So here there are exemptions. So I don't know whether you heard about that. 66 matters. Have you heard about that? So under the Primary Court Procedure Act, there is a clause 66. It means if a person occupy or possess a land of another person, then there is a piece of the breach of peace is coming into play. Then that can escalate to another violent thing. So therefore, if a person, this is very serious, if a person can occupy or possess that land for 2 months, then the person who are affected can go to the police and complain. Then police will make a complaint to the magistrate court, primary courts. Technically we don't have primary courts, magistrate court also exercising that power. Then they will hear the case. The dangerous here is the magistrate court will issue an order to maintain the status quo. If a person who is not owning the land still possessing, he or she can continuously possess. Then what happened is, the person who really owned the property should go before the district court and prove that he or she is the owner of the proper land, and then come back and do that. So that those are very complex issues. So therefore, it is advised those are not part of the land mediation program. The other thing is the recovery of premises. I think you may have your own houses, but you may go on a lease or a rent. Yeah? So disputes relating to lease. So for example, you went on a lease, but the person is not paying the rent or a lease, then there is a dispute arises. Those can go before the land mediation board. But recovery of possession, if the owner wants the possession back, those cannot be go before the mediation board, because those are special issues, because it involves many things. What, for example, that person says, I can't go out. Then you can't go and hit him or her to put out, no. Then you have to go to fiscal. The fiscal should come and they throw all the properties and then get the premises. So that is therefore the court has to involve in that. So the recovery of possession of lease or rent can't go. But the issues, disputes relating to rent or lease can go before the mediation board, but only the recovery of possession you can't. Because now the law has also changed. So the third parties or co-owners. So that means co-ownership. Have you heard about that? Co-ownership means a land is or a property is more than two people. So maybe you may have a property owned by two or more people. Then if you have an issue with one person, the other person is not really involved in that. So therefore, in those aspects, the mediation board, they say don't entertain those kind of applications because it infringes the right of the other person. So those things need to be settled by the district courts. Other than that, all the land disputes, it can be an encroachment, illegal occupation, all the disputes can go before the mediation board. The mediation board, as we discussed, we use the same mediation process to resolve the disputes. We use the interest-based negotiation to resolve the dispute. So in that sense, what we are trying to do is how we resolve a dispute with a peaceful manner which will not harm the other party. Because if it is less than 1 million, those are small issues, small matters, small disputes. So there may be differences between parties and other people, maybe misunderstanding, and the other things are there. So when you conduct the mediation process in an interest-based process, then you will be in a position to dig out the interest, needs, what are the root causes of the disputes. That is the most important thing. The mediation tries to resolve or take out the root cause of the dispute, which court do not do. So mediation definition says, how do you do away with the root cause of the dispute and to not to occur again? Because if you do not do an interest-based negotiation in a proper way, the dispute can come again and again. But your interest-based negotiation, when you really do an interest-based negotiation in a proper professional way, you will be able to identify each and every issues, and you will address each and every corner of the dispute. So which will in turn, what will do is, because it tried to remove the root cause and understand the root cause properly and try to help the parties to come to a negotiation. So that's how even in the land mediation board also, so to resolve the disputes quickly and timely, and also in an amicable manner to ensure the peaceful coexistence of that community. So we encourage the party, even though it is land, better we discuss and settle the matter. You have any questions on the land mediation? Yes.
I think one of the things that our project is looking at across the various districts that we're working in is places in which some of this the definition of state land is also contested. You're also not sure if it is, in the sense that a land, either people have had private ownership of that land and then it's been declared a forest reserve, and then a state land, or they've had private ownership and then it's been sold via the state to a factory, in the case of Monologala, for example. and then there's a whole different conversation on who has the rights to these different plots and things like that. Does that fall under, would that fall under land mediation rules? Because it's not private land that has been claimed by the state, and then what rights do citizens who have the deeds, can they also access the same land mediation boards to resolve that particular issue?
Yeah, I think yes, but the problem is because I think if it is related to a policy matter, because for example, if a private land of people has been taken over by a state, you can only do is you have to acquire the land, acquisition, because otherwise, because there are recent cases, because the state will not land for free because it's somebody's property. So therefore, even now, giving gift to state is prohibited. Then it has to be compensated properly. So if the state wants any land belongs to a private person or an entity, then if they want that for a public purpose, then they have to acquire the land. Then you have to give the market rate to the person and do. But in land mediation process, because we have mediators who will be helping the parties to resolve the dispute and so on and so forth. But if it is a power imbalance is always there. So then it is very difficult for the mediators to discuss those issues. That's the main reason, because when we really established the land mediation for the north and the east, we took a policy decision that if it is a serious nature of land dispute, for example, land has been occupied by the army, land occupied has been declared as a high security zone. So those are policy level issues which the mediation boards can't, even though you can go and discuss, but the outcome will be very negative for the affected people. So therefore, what we are trying to do here is the purpose of mediation is to how you support the community to resolve the disputes which are not rigorous in nature and which can be settled through discussion and negotiation by explaining and understanding the issues. There are so many issues to do that. But if it is a serious nature, and wherever the state and the policy, parliament and everything is involved, so then we are not advising the people to go to the mediation board, because they will not be in a position to resolve that. Because sometimes you can't ask the chief secretary of the provinces to come to the mediation board, he or she will send someone. So we are experiencing that. Even the divisional secretaries are not coming to the land mediation board, he will send or she will send someone. So, but what we are trying to do is, because there are so many issues in the community level, so land also, we think the community level land disputes, that's what we are trying to achieve. So among people, among neighbors and among, so then how do we resolve that through a mediation process?
So a local business will not be will also not be considered within community. Like I'm thinking a factory,
Yeah.
for example. The factory management or the plantation management
Oh.
will never be in the community. That is also large. That's not also something that the land mediation board will handle. No? That is a bigger or would that be considered in?
Yeah, because if you really think about the plantation management, so that is a different infrastructure, no? Because it is neither state or neither private, it is in between, and you have a very specific infrastructure to the estates. So therefore, the estate management is not owner of the land, because the golden chair is with the state, and so therefore, and the people who are living there is also not having the ownership to the land, because they will be there as a leaseholder. When you work in the estate, then you are provided that. But if you have a private land within the estate and there are ownership and so on, so those can go before the mediation board. So it is contextual, and also the situation may arise. So therefore, then, but according to the thing, all the state land disputes can go. So if the parties are willing to settle, so that because we are trying to help the state to resolve the land disputes, because the divisional secretary doesn't have the time to resolve the dispute. The Gram Niladhari doesn't have the time to discuss and resolve the disputes. But we are providing a platform for the state and the parties come, and we have some ability and skill to resolve these disputes, we will be helping them. So therefore, in the state land mediation process, what we do is, because we don't take decisions, because for the private land, the mediators can take a decision, because the disputants have the right to take a decision, because that is their land. But when the state is coming to play, even you are a permit holder or a grantee, you don't have the sole authority to take a decision on that land. Only the divisional secretary has the right to take a decision, or the land commissioner general. So therefore, what the land mediation mediators do is, what we are advising them, you conduct the process, then you ask the state to participate and come to a settlement, and that will be forwarded to the decision making authority to implement that decision. So then there is another set of work they have to do.
You look at this because of this 1 million budget cap.
Hmm.
So you're looking at, like, very individual, small scale
Yeah.
things which comes to mediation board.
Yeah.
Not the larger land issues.
Yeah.
Basically private things. Even if it is state land, when you look at the land value, because of this 1 million, it's basically like, very small cases.
Yeah, that's the thing, because I told you, because this 1 million cap is for the courts, because the court can't entertain any applications if the monetary value or the course of action of the dispute is 1 million. Even though if it is 10 million, if the parties are willing to go to the mediation board, we want to resolve through mediation, well and good, no problem. Because this 1 million threshold has been given to the courts, because court can't entertain. Because if it is more than 1 million, you have two choices. Either you go for mediation or you go to courts. But if it is less than 1 million, whether you like it or not, you can't go to courts, you have to go to mediation. So that is the difference, because I don't know, I am clearly articulating that. Yeah. Yes. You want to tell it?
Yes, that was a really good explanation. Just one last thing quickly. So these community boards can't deal with the land issue. They have to send it to the land.
Now,
They have to send it to the land special meeting board. Second thing, can you talk quickly about the type of training and the type of expertise the land special mediation boards use to resolve land disputes?
Okay, okay. So I'm put. So Jack, thank you for that question. So the process, as I mentioned, it is the same. So you apply and do, but they have special arrangement. So we can appoint expert panel to resolve the land disputes, because land is very much complex issues. Those are not settled easily, because it goes to many facets of disputes. So therefore, land mediation mediators have a special arrangement. They can have an expert panel for the special mediation board. So in that manner, so then there will be a survey. For example, if the dispute is relating to encroachment, then a survey only can tell whether that person has really encroached the land. So you can get an advice from the surveyor. Sometimes there is an issue, valuation. So people might argue the valuation of the dispute. This is when you go to negotiation, he should give this much, that much, so this is not enough, and so on and so forth. So then there is a possibility to appoint a valuer as an expert to the land mediation board. So then when there is such dispute issues come up, so then the land mediation chairperson has the right to consult the expert panel members and get some opinion, or he can be asked to, or she can be asked to come and explain, because otherwise sometimes the party will not agree to that. So likewise, surveyor, valuation, senior deeds, maybe your parents. So it is a very complex document. Even the lawyer doesn't understand what it is written sometimes, because we use the same formats and other things. So there are Latin and so many words in that. So you don't understand what is really meaning by that. So therefore, so the land also, then the mediators will not understand whether the deed is right, whether it is properly done, whether it is registered, whether it has been written properly according to the notarial ordinance, and so on and so forth. So therefore, you can have a lawyer in the expert panel. So when there is a legal issue coming with regard to legal documentation, then they can get an advice. Likewise, not confined to 3. So likewise, it depends on the issue. Then you have more than 3 experts. Then they can get an idea for them. So that is to support the mediation process and also timely and meaningful resolution. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say land reform also doesn't go according to deeds. Land reform lands have been given by the LRC, go according to the Gazette notification. So a lot of them don't have deeds.
Yeah. Yes, that's what I think this program has come into play, because the Land Reform Commission. So you know how the land was been taken. So only a Gazette notification issue, and people has to give the land. So likewise, I think now they are trying to regularize that in a proper documentation process. That's what they are trying to do now.
So all this will come under.
Yeah. Okay. Any questions?
So I have a question. Sorry, I lost my voice because of the cold. So yeah.
Yes.
So you said like the mediation boards, they don't get those kind of dispute related to the state land, something like the government took the private lands and those kind of things. So like in the past, did the mediation board has like did they put any effort to deal with that, or they in the beginning, from the beginning they don't think about that like that?
Yeah, because we have to understand it is a community-led program, so therefore the much more complex issues they didn't want to entertain. So it was given an advice, if it is serious nature of land disputes, if it is an high security zone,
Yeah.
even the political leaders can't resolve that. So
It seems as a major issue.
yeah.
So like.
Yeah. So those can be resolved through mediation, I believe, because the mediation is, end of the day, it is the party's decision. So it will not binding also. So they will come to decision and then resolved and settlement certificate is signed. So it is not a binding thing. So therefore these kind of things, as to, even though mediation board discuss, there will be no results on that. So the government have to take a policy decision to resolve. That's the main reason that there's, even now there are so many land is occupied by army and declared as high security zones. So I think those expertise are not with the mediation board's mediators. So those are very complex issues. So then, if in that case, I think they have to have a special, even they can do that under the Special Categories of Disputes Act. You can create a high level experts and create a mediation board, and then you can do that. But I think they want to do in a policy level. I think that's so. We didn't want to waste the mediation board's time on that. Yes. I don't know. That's.
There's a few other questions too.
Yeah.
I have a question about plantation management, like that kind of land issue, because some of the urban council lands are issue some of the people through the cash or something. So that time they are giving permits. So I was
Balapatra.
So some kind of people don't know how to change the grant or something. So you told the special land mitigation is to for that kind of people, because you are currently said the 16 places are working on that.
Yeah.
So under that plantation sector, how many mediation centers are working for that?
Yeah. For the moment, because not even the Nuerelia, Padulla, so most of the plantation sectors are not covered yet. So under ADR, Monragala and Padulla will be covered. But at the same time, the mediation board is going to establish 9 mediation boards in the entire country. For the moment, if you take the plantation sector, only Kandy, we have a special mediation board. So on those issues, they can come and discuss. The permit means the divisional secretaries issue a permit to the people, and then they can develop and they can possess the land.
Yeah, sometimes the politician also through the game on the land issue and some 7 pages or something. Like that. So that also giving some permits like that.
Yeah.
So the people, most of the people don't know how to change the land or something.
Yeah, that is a big issue in the plantation sector, because I'm also doing a study on that, because technically the plantation sector is not in par with the state land policy. They have excluded the plantation sector. That is my decision on that. So therefore, even they are giving 7 perch land and deed, and sometimes now they are speaking about 10 perch in the new project, and then earlier it was 20. So those things, there are so many documentation issues are there.
At
So
the same time, the private land also sometimes giving like that permits. So
No, private land you can't give permits. Yeah. Only the state land they can issue permits. Private land, it's technically the deed. Yeah. So, but I think for the plantation sector, they haven't issued the deed. So that is the issue. So now they are trying to do that. So because some are not registered and some are. So there are so many issues in the plant sector.
The moment you can go for a campaign,
Yeah, that I think because if the person is live in Noverelia, they can't go to mediation board because the jurisdiction is not there, because they have to wait until the Noverelia land mediation board is established.
All right, two more questions. One over here and one over there. Okay, Anusha, you go, and then.
என்னண்டா நீங்கள்
It's not working. Sorry.
நான் கேட்குறதுக்கு பதில் சொல்ல என்னமோ எனக்கு தெரியல. எனக்கு ஒரு கேள்வி இருக்கு. அங்கே அந்த பக்கம் வந்து இப்போ நீங்கள் சொன்ன மாதிரி நுரலியா சைட்லாம் நிறைய தோட்டங்கள் வச்சுருக்காங்க இல்லையா? அந்த எஸ்டேட்டில் இருக்கிற அவங்க அவ்வளோ பேத்துக்கும் ஏக்கர் கணக்கில் தோட்டம் இருக்குது. அந்த ஒவ்வொரு தோட்டத்துக்குமான பத்திரங்கள் அவங்க கையில் இருக்கா? இப்போ வீட்டுக்கு பத்திரம் இல்லை, எஸ்டேட்டில் இருக்கிறாங்களுக்கு அவங்க அந்த ஏரியாவில் இருக்கிற முழு தோட்டமும் தங்களோட பேரில் ஒரு குடும்பத்தில் ஒரு 5-6 பேருக்கு ஒவ்வொரு தோட்டம் இருக்கு இல்லையா? அதுக்கு அவங்க கிட்ட பத்திரம் எனக்கு தெரிய நான் காணலை. அப்படி எதுவும் இருக்குதா? ஒன்று. ரெண்டாவது, நிறைய காணி வச்சிருக்காங்க இல்லையா ஆட்கள், அந்த தேயிலை காணியை கொஞ்சம் கொஞ்சமாக பிரித்து கொடுத்துருக்காங்க இல்லையா கவர்மெண்ட் கம்பெனிஸ் கொடுக்குது இல்லையா? ஒவ்வொருத்தட்ட இது நீங்கள் பொறுப்பெடுத்து இதுக்கு வந்து நீங்கள் இதில் செயலியை பறிச்சுட்டு எங்களுக்கு தாங்கன்னு சொல்லிட்டு அப்படி கொடுக்க அந்த காணி உங்களுக்குரியதுன்னு சொல்லி பத்திரத்தை கொடுக்குறாங்களா?
இல்லை.
இல்லை.
So that is still state land.
Yeah, because
இன்னொன்று இருக்குது, தேயிலையே பயிரிடப்படாம காடு மாதிரி இருக்கிற ஏரியாவும் எஸ்டேட்டுக்குரியதுன்னு சொல்றாங்க. அதுக்கான பத்திரமும் யார் பேர் இருக்கு?
கம்பெனி.
எல்லாம் அந்த பயிர்
எஸ்.
அப்போ முழு இதுவுமே வந்து கம்பெனி தான் அந்த இடத்த பொறுப்பெடுக்குது, கவர்மெண்ட் இல்லை.
இல்லை. இப்போ இப்போ என்ன சார் tell it in Tamil?
No problem.
சார் நீங்கள் இங்கிலீஷில் சொல்லுங்க.
Yeah, because he was asking about the.
You can answer in Tamil. Yeah.
No, the others also no, because it is a state sector, because you have gardens and also you have the other properties, because it is not belongs to them whether they have the documentation. So as far as I know, there is no deeds given to the gardens, because people are living in the quarters or something else, residence, but they don't have any document for that, because that is the part of the estate property. Likewise, the garden also part of the property. What they can do is they can cultivate and enjoy and possess, but they will be not given a documentation for ownership. That is one thing. Even though with regard to the other lands which are not tea, then there are other places which are maybe grassland and other things. So that is also coming under the estate management. So the ownership is with the state, but it has given 99-year lease. So they have the leasehold right to possess and develop and protect the land. So that's how it goes. So therefore, now there is no legal documents for any of this.
One more question over here.
Yeah.
And the commission, the mediation boards.
The special land, special mediation.
Yeah. Land special mean.
Okay.
Land special mediation boards started in the north of the east.
Yeah.
So before you establishing them in the other districts, were there any documentation on lessons learned, some cases from the north and the east, in the release to the public domain, because that process started, the pilot project. Was there any documentation, case studies that we can access?
Yeah. Because the land mediation established in the north and the east based on the LLRC recommendations, Lesson Learned and Reconciliation Commission reports, to resolve the land disputes in the north and the east. Because some of the disputes cannot be brought before the courts also, because people do not have legal documents, prove their ownership and everything. So therefore, how you support to amicably resolve the disputes. So that is the purpose. So based on that, I think in the north and the east there was some time, and then the government took a policy decision to expand to other thing, because as a state you have to provide the facilities to each and every people. So Asia Foundation did one study on the land disputes, especially in other areas also, and they have done another study with the support of ADR in Mondragala and Badulla, and what are the real issues. In that they have captured the plantation issues as well.
Other than Asia Foundation, is it earlier like the very first ones, like was there any documentation?
Yeah, I think the Asia Foundation report covers everything, and yes.
CPAR did one in 2024 for us, shorter, and we had to share that. It was called a rapid assessment.
You also have that on your folder. The folder we sent, the rapid assessment, we put it also on the folder. But I can share it with you.
Yeah, and also before we established the land mediation board, we did a rapid assessment in the north and the east. Professor Lokumar and myself and Ramani. So that is also available in the web, I think. So in that, I think we have captured what types of land disputes in the north and the east, including state and private as well.